I talked about how difficult it is for moms that I have worked with to really give themselves the permission and the space to do their own inner work. And although it's difficult for them to take the time out for themselves and to put themselves first, once you begin to do that, you're going to see that because you're doing this, all your relationships are changing, right? You're going to see that the healing within yourself is going to offer healing to others. Hi, I am Bridget Shipman, and I am the host of A Mother's Guide Through Autism. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you the essential advice number 4 on my list, and that is permission to grieve. So in number 3, when I talked to you about putting yourself first and nurturing yourself with self-compassion, I wanted to introduce that to you and get you to build your awareness around self-compassion. And that is because when we talk about essential piece of advice number 4, permission to grieve, then we are going to use self-compassion. So we're building through all this list, the list that I've created for you is your top 10 essential pieces of advice. This is building. And you begin where you're at, you begin to nurture yourself, incorporate some of these practices when you're ready, and just keep moving forward so that you can live your life with more joy and hope, and that this brings a family dynamic to your home with more peace, and that you can enjoy the ride rather than carry around this big piece of pain with you when you find out that your child has been diagnosed somewhere on the autistic spectrum. And it's hard. It is hard. It is a struggle. But as I said in number 1, my first piece of advice to you was I wanted to let you know that no matter what, you're going to be okay. So giving yourself permission to grieve is essential, and it's also hard. I know that living through my own life tsunamis, that I referred to, the moments that I was on my knees with those life tsunamis, that I didn't give myself permission to grieve. Although I had moments of grief, I didn't know how to work through my grief. As a matter of fact, I used all my energy to avoid it. And grief doesn't go anywhere. It's always present, and it is a part of our human experience. And it's a tough topic. It's really difficult to speak to someone who is avoiding it because it hurts, it's painful, it's dark. But when you're in that deep, dark forest, it is so great to share with someone else how you got to the other side. And that's what I'm doing. I'm sharing with you my story. And the reason I'm sharing my story with you is so that it helps you find your own way out. And it's important to respect your own journey. I'm sharing with you mine, but at the same time, I want you to meet yourself where you're at. And if you're not ready, I think that is beautiful because you're respecting your own journey. That's a beautiful thing. And being unique and knowing what you're ready for and what you're not ready for. So honor that. and go do something kind for yourself. But if you are curious and you would like to know what I mean by permission to grieve, then I'm going to get into that just a little bit deeper today on this episode. And I talked about in Self-Compassion 101 and number 3 to put yourself first. Everything begins with you, and to, again, honor that. So I talked about how difficult it is for moms that I have worked with to really give themselves the permission and the space to do their own inner work. And although it's difficult for them to take the time out for themselves and to put themselves first, once you begin to do that, you're going to see that because you're doing this, all your relationships are changing, right? You're going to see that the healing within yourself is going to offer healing to others. And since you're such a great nurturer, because if you're a mother guide, you're at the top of the nurturing. You are the one who is, caring for everyone. You can't help it. It's just who it's just part of your DNA. You're a nurturer. And what we tend to do is we tend to put ourselves somewhere low on the list. And I'm going to ask you to, if you're not ready to give yourself permission to grieve, to at least consider going back to the last episode with number 3, with It Begins With You, and start incorporating the self-compassion into your daily life, because that's going to help you build the resilience. It's going to help you build your energy where you can keep moving forward. And I want to get you to a place where you begin sharing your story with other moms. And as we can share our stories, we're all helping each other. And what a beautiful thing that is, to spend the time together and to help each other through our own difficulties, our journeys, and to support each other. Giving yourself permission to grieve is essential. And it's essential because without giving yourself that permission to grieve, it is not going anywhere. Grief is a part of your journey. And you will not be able to heal your heart until you give yourself permission to do that. It's too big and it's too important on our autism journey as mother guides. What I'd like you to do is to just give yourself a moment and understand that, yes, grief is dark. You have deep pain and sorrow, but getting to the other side of grief is where the sun is shining. So let's talk about that. So stay with me just a little bit for this part, because I'm going to be giving you an exercise to do to help you get started. And I want you to allow grief to come join you as you find your way through it. I've been there. I've been standing on the other side of grief, and I understand that I do have scars. There are still scars there, and grief is still present, but I understand it now, and I've befriended my grief, and I understand that grief is part of my journey. And once you do get to the other side, what it's going to offer you is that you're going to be able to walk tall with hope again, and joy again, and looking forward to things and feeling joy running through your whole body, just as you did before the diagnosis. My grief was huge. It was messy. It was painful, and I stumbled through it because I didn't have the tools and I didn't know how to move forward. I just moved forward in finding, I'm very, very good at finding resources. I'm very good at creating curriculum and taking facts and different therapies and putting them together. What I'm not good at is giving myself the same love and attention that I create through my resources. So we all have our strengths, and being able to identify them is really going to be a strength, if you will, on your healing journey. So scars, yes, but I want you to know that when you begin this grieving process, and you more than likely you already have, I want you to understand that grief is not linear. There are 5 stages that most people talk about. I know there are some professionals that talk about 7, but I'm going to stay simple, and I'm just going to speak on behalf of the 5 stages of grief today. They are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I'm going to say it again: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So what I learned through my own journey is that I can be in all 5 stages of grief at one time, depending on the day, depending on what's going on. And that is really big to know, because one moment I was really angry. I was in that anger stage of grief. And I thought to myself, why am I so angry? And then I would find myself bargaining. Well, if I do this, then maybe I'll get this. Then I would find myself in depression. And I spent very little time in true acceptance. And that's been in recent years, since I've given myself permission to grieve and to understand it and to work through it. The pain is real, grief is real, and grief doesn't go anywhere. So we know that grief is not linear. We know that grief can pop in and out whenever grief would like. We know that grief is part of life. And whether we're aware of it or not, we will go through these stages of grief. How can we move through grief once we give ourselves permission? How do we move forward with this very huge, big, messy part of life? You do it really slowly, with awareness, and hopefully you have got a great support group that you're a part of. I would really encourage anyone who is in deep grief, or you haven't dealt with grief, to find a good support group and talk to other people who are going through a similar experience that you're going through, who can relate to your journey, who you feel like can hear you and you feel comfortable sharing your story with. If you haven't found a Mother's Guide Through Autism Facebook support group, it is private. We ask each other pretty much anything that we're looking for. There's a lot of resource asking, which is great, right? We want to spread knowledge, hope, and inspiration. But there's also the days where we have those tough days when we are in grief, and grief pops up, where we need that extra support. And if you haven't joined Mother's Guide Through Autism Facebook support group, please join that. If you are part of a support group, continue with it. Continue to find a place that feels safe for you, that you can go to when you're having those tough days. I would like to help you begin to heal. So let's do that. Believe it or not, Greece can become an old friend who pops in and out of your life from time to time. And I know when I tell people that, you're like, they feel the anger of grief. Anger is very powerful, and that's okay. There are, positive things to denial and anger and all the different feelings that you go through. There's a reason for them. So I'm not going to say anger isn't useful, but I will say we don't want to stay in anger. So when I say grief can become an old friend, it's part of the acceptance journey. It's part of understanding that I am going to feel this pain depending on where I'm at on my journey or what the life tsunami is that I'm currently going through. But how beautiful is it to know that other people are going through the same thing that you are? You're not alone. I want you to really hear that. You are not alone on this journey. And I want you to feel that, because I know loneliness is a part of it. And I know that it feels like other people aren't going to understand you, that no matter how hard you try to explain what you're feeling, you don't feel like people really get it. And that's true with any grief that you're going to be going through during this life journey, autism being one of them. But for now, there's no pressure or hurry for you to move through grief. Again, you can just listen to this episode, take it all in, and come back to it when you're ready to take that first step. For those of you that are ready to take that first step, I want you to know, again, this is your own personal journey, and that's beautiful. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. And if someone tries to say you're not grieving the right way, then that's probably not your go-to person, and it certainly doesn't feel safe to me. All right. This is your journey. This is for you. So again, we're going to honor that. But I am going to ask you, if you're ready, to lean into grief and give yourself permission to move forward. And here is a mantra to help you move forward. Let's lean into grief together. Be kind, be loving, be present. Breathe that in for a minute, and that is a beautiful mantra. If you want to write it down, write it down. Be kind, be loving, be present. And as you're moving through it, I want you to be kind to yourself. I want you to be loving to yourself. And I want you to be present and honor yourself. That's what be kind, be loving, be present is. It's a mantra to slow down and to give yourself all the love and kindness that I know that you're needing right now. Once you say that mantra out loud, I want you to begin to treat yourself like your best friend. So we started the treating, the paradigm shift of really feeling into how you would feel if your very best friend shows up on your doorstep and they are in deep grief. What would you do for them? You're going to be kind, you're going to be loving, and you're going to be present for them. So let's shift that feeling again. We used this in the last episode with Self-Compassion 101 to yourself. So if a friend shows up at your doorstep, deep grief, be kind, be loving, be present, what would you do for them? My hunch is you might show them kindness by just giving them a safe space, something soothing for them. If they're cold, a nice, warm, cozy blanket. If they're truly devastated and they're upset, some soft tissues to dry their eyes, a big, beautiful hug of love, anything that would nurture them and would comfort them is maybe, not maybe, I'm pretty sure nurture would have a place where the reason that friend showed up at your doorstep is because they already know you're going to be kind, be loving, and be present. They showed up at your doorstep because you are a safe space, because you will comfort them. That's why they showed up. So how can you show up for yourself that way? How can you show up for yourself? So making that nurturing gesture that you would offer to your best friend, and now you're going to offer that to yourself. That's the first step in giving yourself permission to grieve and to heal your heart, is to honor yourself and to comfort yourself and to know that all is well, all is well. And you will get to the other side of grief because you've given yourself permission to do that. So you will. I write about this in A Mother's Guide Through Autism, and I'm going to remind you in every episode of the 10 essential countdown, if you will. I started with number 1, that you're going to be okay, the essential pieces of advice. And I'm going to offer A Mother's Guide Through Autism guided workbook to you. And the reason that I'm doing that is because the pieces of advice that I have created, you can go deeper when you're ready with A Mother's Guide Through Autism. And again, I wrote this for you. I'm paying it forward to you, and I know you can feel that. It's most sincere, and it's a workbook. And the reason it's written that way is because you need to honor your heart, honor yourself, and work through it at your own pace. So if you are ready to give yourself permission to grieve, you can go deeper into this work through the workbook, A Mother's Guide Through Autism. And of course, get the insight from Joseph, my son, in his half of the book as he shares his journey with you. If you're not ready, that's beautiful too. So for now, if you have given yourself permission to grieve and you're ready, begin with your mantra of be kind, be loving, be present. Comfort yourself, give yourself a safe space, and do something really, really kind and nurturing for you. And then get A Mother's Guide Through Autism and keep working. Take a break whenever you need a break. But what I know for sure is that you will indeed get to the other side. You will walk tall in hope again. And one day you'll be able to pay it forward, and you'll be able to reach out and comfort other mothers who are on this journey with you. So for today, I want you to go create hope for yourself today. And I will see you in the next episode. I'll be sharing essential piece of advice number 5 in the next episode of A Mother's Guide Through Autism podcast. If you felt like this was helpful to you, it would be great if you would like and subscribe to A Mother's Guide Through Autism YouTube channel. This helps Joseph and I reach as many moms as we can, because that is what we're trying to do. And our message is to offer you the hope, the knowledge, and the inspiration, and of course, the healing on your own autism journey. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you in the next episode.